Okay, so thank you very much for joining us this afternoon then for our session on qualifying as a solicitor. And we're focusing on how the LLM in legal practice supports your SQE journey. So introduction. So my name is Nicola Gordge and I am the Student Recruitment Manager here at the College of Legal Practice. So myself and my team will oversee the journey of sort of prospective students. So anyone with those sort of initial inquiries about studying with us through to then going through to submit their application and hopefully enrol with us. And I also work with different universities and societies supporting with their events as well. I'm joined this afternoon as well. I keep meaning to say this evening because we're quite often an evening session, but I'm joined this afternoon with by my colleague Jane. So Jane, can you introduce yourself as well, please?
Lovely. Thank you, Nicola. So I'm Jane Waddell. I'm Head of Curriculum Design and Development here at the college, so really everything on the academic side. Like so many of our academic team, I'm actually a solicitor as well, non-practicing now. And we're very much plying our trade and teaching you how to become solicitors and all the knowledge that you need with that. And hopefully that will become clear as we take you through this session. Nicola.
Thanks, Jane. So what we will be covering during the session then is we're explaining a bit about who the College of Legal Practice are, in case you're not too familiar with us. So why obviously study on the LLM. We'll talk about the structure of it and then those component modules, and then some top tips for obviously going on and then passing the SQE. And obviously we try and get to as many questions as we can to support you. So if you have your phone handy, there's a QR code here for a guide that we have actually that you can access. So the Secrets to SQE Success Guide. So presumably if you're interested in the LLM in legal practice, it's obviously because you're wanting to then go on and take those SQE exams. So we have this guide here that's available for you to access, which has some further top tips on and some sort of explanations and quotes from our different students who have studied for the SQE with us as well as the supervisor tips. I will pop that onto the email that I send out with a copy of the recording as well. So I will go on just to explain then a bit about who we are. So for those who don't know, we are a fully online postgraduate law school and we are built for delivering our programmes fully online. We specialise in SQE preparation and we've been supporting students through the SQE since the very first exam sitting. So there aren't any other training providers out there that have any more experience than ourselves in supporting students to sit through the SQE. Our parent company, the College of Law, are leaders in legal education in Australia, so we're very experienced in delivering digital learning. We are very much focused on accessible and affordable legal education. Traditionally, obviously working in law has been known as being a profession with many barriers to entry, so we do our bit to eliminate that by trying to keep our courses and programmes at an affordable price. We also facilitate access through our personal and targeted individual support, where students get access to high levels of one-to-one tutor supervision, which you'll be hearing about during the session. And we are very, very focused on maintaining our high rates from our students. So we're currently rated at 4.4 out of 5 on Trustpilot, and we're very proud that is the case. You'll see there's a number of logos on the screen here. So we partner with a number of different law firms or legal departments where we offer the SQE preparation as part of their perhaps training programs or, for their employees that they're looking to put through the SQE. But also you'll see there's a number of universities on there where we actually offer the SQE preparation programs as part of their LLMs as well. So they've asked us, because of our specialism, to join and partner with them to be able to offer that. So I'm going to move on then and just give some sort of thoughts really, first of all, as to why you might be wanting to study the LLM in legal practice and why you might want to consider that and studying that with us. So a few things, and we'll obviously be expanding a bit more on these throughout. But first of all, as we mentioned, we're a fully online legal training provider. So our programs are obviously delivered fully remotely. And so it's accessible for all, wherever you are. It is guided learning. So although you will study with us online, there is very much a weekly structure for you to follow. It's not like you're just provided the materials and off you go. You need to work it out sort of for yourself. There's a weekly structure to follow, but much of the time will be you planning when to do a particular part of your studies, whilst also having then support through seminars and supervision sessions from the expert practitioners that you'll be hearing about today during the session. So there is the option to fund the LLM with a postgraduate loan, subject obviously to your own eligibility for that loan. And this is obviously hugely appealing for many. And we have very purposely kept our fees low so that if you take out that loan, it would cover all of our fees as well as the SQE1 and SQE2 exam fees as well. So we've very purposely been able to keep our costs at that level. There's the option to study full-time or part-time, and we would very much encourage you to opt for the most appropriate route for you. And we're happy to have a conversation with you on that to help you to work out which is best for you. The LLM has been very purposefully planned around the scheduling of the SQE exams and the preparation courses for those exams. So you'll be able to see that from the session today as well. There is flexibility then of when to take those exams though. So as part of passing the LLM, you actually just need to pass the assessments that we conduct as part of those modules. So you'll be hearing about that as well. So that does mean that there's flexibility if you don't feel ready not to take those SQE exams straight away. But what we'll be helping you to do is to start as you mean to go on, really, in that if you're wanting to get ahead and pass those SQE exams at the very first opportunity, we'll be guiding you on how you can do that. And then as part of the LLM, as opposed to just looking at individual SQE1 and 2 preparation courses, you have those optional modules to be able to focus on particular areas of law that are really of interest to you. So you'll be hearing more about that from us as well. So I'm just going to briefly explain the components before Jane goes on in a bit, just to give you the full details about all of these modules. So the LLM in legal practice, we are able to offer it at a cost of £7,245, and that's whether you go for the full-time or the part-time option. And as I've mentioned, subject to your own eligibility, it can be funded through a postgraduate loan. So we have a 1-year full-time programme or a 2-year part-time, and we would say on the full-time one, it really is full-time. It is around 30 to 35 hours of study time per week. So if you're working full-time, we would certainly discourage you from looking at that option and to go for the part-time one instead. But also think about obviously the level of commitment that you can put in as well, as to whether even if you're not working full-time, if you have other responsibilities that take up a lot of your time, then you may want to look at the part-time option, which is more like 15 to 20 hours. So of the modules that are involved then, there's the SQE1 and SQE2 preparation modules that we spoke about. There's also the capstone module as well, which Jane will be explaining to you about. And then there's a choice of some elective modules. So you can see they're listed there. There's a few from a fair few different areas of law, and you would select 2 of those to study as part of the LLM. And I'm just going to show you the brief structure of the LLM as well, just so that it sort of makes sense before you hear more about what each of those involves. So the full-time programme, you'll see at the top there, starts with the SQE1 preparation program. And you'll see for both, there's no overlapping of modules other than the capstone project, which you'll sort of start a bit earlier and complete at the end. But unlike perhaps when you studied your undergraduate and you had multiple modules going on at the same time, actually you would just focus on the one here. So actually, regardless of full-time or part-time, the very first module is always the SQE1 preparation course module. So on the full-time one, this is 13 weeks long or 20 weeks long on the part-time one. And this is why as well, because you do go straight into the SQE1 preparation, if you are from a non-law background, we would always recommend looking at our GDL law conversion course first of all, because you'll see there's no introduction to law, there's no sort of gently moving through and getting any sort of foundation areas of law. First of all, it is straight into that, and it is obviously a very challenging module. But yeah, just to give you an idea of how they would flow those. So SQE1 prep first on the full time. You then have a 2-week gap for revision, and then you'd have the time frame of when the SQE1 exams take place. And then you would go on to one of the transactional modules, and then another, and then on to the SQE2, again with a break for revision and for the exams, and complete then the capstone project. And this is similar then to the part-time one as well, but you'll just see on the part-time one, the SQE2 prep is sort of sandwiched between those transactional modules, but still the same in terms of they're very much, the SQE prep modules are very much timed to lead towards a particular exam sitting, so that if you're wanting to take them at the very first opportunity, then that's when you would be able to do so. So I will move over, hand over to Jane then, if that's okay. And just Jane is going to give you much more information about these different modules that we have involved here.
Great, thanks, Nicola. So just as Nicola says, a little bit more detail, most of, in fact, all of you who are planning to do the LLM are doing it because you want to sit SQE1 and then SQE2. So that's the main focus of the LLM, but there is more to it, and I'll come on to that in a moment. But if we just focus on that left-hand column, SQE1 prep, I'll just take you through it all. It's very logical. Our both prep courses are beautifully designed. They're designed to be delivered online from scratch. There's been no lifting and shifting of old LPC materials. It's all been done with SQE in mind. So it's divided, the learning is divided into 3 steps. So those first 3 bullet points, we get students to knowledge up. Each bit's a subunit, so it's about 2.5 hours of learning where you knowledge up by reading the manuals. They're online, but you also get hard copies. They're split into 13 different practice areas that you need for SQE1. So all very logically set out. So you get the knowledge, and then you go through some exercises to check your knowledge, and if need be, go back and do more reading. And that's done by way of the videos, which introduce the topic, and then with activities, which are drag and drop, flashcards, which students love, and you can do them as often as you want, but it lets you just check whether you've picked up points, and if not, go back and do a bit more reading, watch some more videos, and come back. Then at the end of every subunit, there's 10 MCQs to test your knowledge. So it's quite formulaic, those 3 steps, and you just keep doing those as you work your way through all the practice areas. And as you go through the practice areas, of course, you're acquiring more knowledge, and so you have more to test. And I'll talk about that in a moment. So we provide lots of support from our supervisors, most of whom have taught in higher education, but have also practiced as solicitors. So they really understand how to apply the law, because it's not just enough to know it, you need to know how to apply it. And I liken it to a board game where, to me, that's what law is. You learn the rules, and only once you've learned the rules, you then learn how to move around the board and apply it to different situations, depending on your client's needs and the scenarios. So Supervisors are all experienced in that because most have been in practice. We have 34 seminars, so they're effectively lectures that pick out the tricky bits for you and go into them in more detail. So it's really the key areas that we know students find more challenging. And at the end of those seminars, you have a chance to ask questions. Then we also do personal supervision sessions, and there's 10 of them with personal supervisors, 5 of which are one-to-ones. So you've 10 minutes with 10 to 15 minutes. Some students need a little bit more, some a lot less, to talk to your personal supervisor about your progress. And it's more about a holistic overview of where you are with your studies, what you're finding hard, what you're finding easy, and what are the barriers to perhaps engaging more. We also then have 5 group sessions, usually small groups, about 15 students with the same personal supervisor. So that way you get to meet other students online, and you also get to share experiences and exchange information. We also do course information sessions, and they're almost weekly, where the module leader will just take an overview of your studies, where you should be at, what's coming up the next week, and reminding you to book on to SQE1, what the closing dates are, that sort of information. So, and also examinable law updates, because I'm afraid the nature of law is it does change as you go along. So the position when you start the course may be slightly different when you finish it, and that's life as a lawyer. So we give you that information so you can refresh your knowledge. Then moving on, practice SQE1 assessments. So this is, I've talked about you getting the knowledge, testing the knowledge. The other component of SQE1 is getting you to practice MCQs. Because when you come to the national exam, it's all MCQs, 360 MCQs, and you get roughly 1 minute 40 seconds per question. So practicing that's a key part of this module so that you get into the habit of being able to read, assimilate information, and retrieve the knowledge you've got and apply it to these MCQs. The MCQs are single best answer. Now, what that means, there's 5 options, and it means all of them are plausible, but only one is better than the others, and you have to select the better one. So it is quite exacting, and you need to have secure knowledge to be able to handle the questions and select the correct one. So we give you lots and lots of practice. And from about week 3 onwards, you will start doing progress tests where we merge the practice areas you've covered already, and you have to be able to pick your way through all the MCQs and time conditions. And that helps to build up your stamina and your ability to answer MCQs. Then at after you've finished the module, we don't just leave you there, because we know most of you are planning to go on to sit SQE1. And so we have 360 MCQs that you can practice once you've done your revision. And you can go back and practice them as often as you want, but it gives you a sense of what the exam, the national exam, will feel like. On top of that, what we find is our students have an insatiable appetite for MCQs. The more, the better. So we have linked up with a third party who have a revision app that has unlimited MCQs, and it's offered to our students at a discounted rate. Most students like it, a few don't. They perhaps find it just gives them too much, but others absolutely love it, and the feedback's been excellent. So, and we also do our own live revision sessions at the end of the module as well. So lots going on there. So that's SQE1 prep. Then it tends to get all the attention, but actually SQE2 is just as important because you have to pass it as well. So our SQE2 prep module is called Solicitor's Legal Skills. It covers all the skills. Nicola's already talked about them, but you've got those 6 skills and 5 key practice areas, but they're not limited to those practice areas. So for instance, you could have dispute resolution but it's the disputes about a contract. So you do need to pull in your knowledge on contract from your SQE1 prep course. So we can, when you're on SQE or SQE2 prep course, you still have access to SQE1 materials. So you can dip back in and refresh your legal knowledge. With lots of activities, and we call them builds, where we introduce the skill, and then we get you to watch a demo, and then you start trying it yourself, and then you mark, and there's nothing like self-marking your own work. You can mark it against an exemplar. That's such a good exercise because it gets your head into that of a marker and what they're looking for. And then each build finishes with a practice and feedback session, and I'll come on to that in a moment. Alongside all of this, we give you a skills guide. So it sets out what the skills should look like, what the assessment criteria, and what you're aiming for. So while you may have done drafting, if you're already working in the workplace, perhaps in a law firm, you may already have done drafting, but you need to do it in a way that hits the assessment criteria. So that's what we're guiding and funneling students towards. So in terms of support from supervisors, we've 10 seminars, so fewer than on SQE1. So we've 10 seminars where they take you through the skills, but usually within the context of a practice area. So for instance, it might be advocacy in the context of criminal law. And you practice that and get feedback on it. Course information sessions, again, same format as on SQE1 prep, where they're just taking a holistic view and giving you pointers, reminding you to book on to SQE2 and providing updates. And these sessions are recorded, so if you can't attend them, you can always watch them afterwards, as are all our seminars. They're all recorded. Then 5 personal supervision sessions on SQE, and towards the end of the module, and it's the same with SQE1 prep, we hold our SQE ready review. So we can look at your performance to date and all the practices you've done and work out, and you can see your marks. You're constantly getting feedback and marks, and we can have a discussion with you about whether, and it's very facts-based, as to whether you're ready to sit the national exam. Then in terms of SQE2 assessments, clearly we're building you up with all the knowledge and skills, but then you have 16 practice assessments during the module with the supervisor feedback. 12 are on the written skills and 4 are on the oral skills, which students, you won't be surprised to know, that's their least favorite one. Having to stand up and do an oral skill, but it's important to take those opportunities and get the feedback. And then lastly, not all our students, even though they've done the prep, they may not be ready to go on and sit the national exam. So we can give you continued access to the module and updates for 14 months after the module finishes. So that will take you through 2 or 3 potential sittings of SQE. So you're not forced to do it straight away at the end of the module. Good. Nicola, if we could have the next slide, and then I will. So that's the heavy duty SQE prep modules that I've talked about. So we then have transactional modules and on the LLM, and these feel very different to the prep module, this SQE prep modules that I've just talked about. These transactional modules are to prepare you for life in an office. What does it feel like in a particular practice area? What are the sort of things are you being asked to do? And we ask you to do them on these modules. So they're effectively elective modules where you specialize in a particular area. So for instance, you might do acquisitions and you would be asked to draft letters, heads of terms, maybe a letter of advice to a client. We give you practical law, access to practical law as the main resource, because that's what you would get in a law firm. So you go away and do a bit of research, come back, draft your letter, give the correct advice to the client. Now, when I say correct advice, of course, we all know that 5 people could write the same letter of advice and it will look slightly different. That's fine. Our supervisors will go through it with you and talk about it and pick out the key points. And they also hold group meetings for you all to give feedback on these exercises. But it very much replicates what you'll encounter in the workplace. So it's a very different feel to the SQE1 and 2 prep courses, which are very prescriptive. But these transactional modules are very much master's level, where a lot of it's you having to work on your own, self-study, very much what you do in a law firm. There's nobody sitting over your shoulder the whole time. But we do support you. You submit your work. If you're in the full-time course, it will be weekly. It's looked at. Some is marked, not all. And some of it's generic feedback, very much the way you would in a classroom, where you tell students what the most common errors were, what they did well, what they could improve upon. And you have a chance to discuss it with your peers. So the transaction modules, I think, are great if you want to position yourself also in your CV. You might be keener to go down the commercial route, in which case you'd be choosing things like commercial law, acquisitions. You might want to go down the more private route, which would be family law, perhaps then litigation. It might be personal injury, dispute resolution. It's a really good choice for you all to select from. So if we move on to the next slide, Nicola. And to finish off your master's with us, we have a 60 credit capstone project. So it's effectively a dissertation. And it steps out of your transactional module. So you can choose, it has to be related to one of the transactional modules you chose. So for example, if you did choose acquisitions, then a good topic, for instance, would be, it's the one I would choose, would be corporate governance. And you could talk about it, research, do a critical evaluation, perhaps where it is, how it could improve, how it's evolved. So really, you've quite a blank page to do what you want with the capstone project. But we do supervise you. You do have to do literature reviews. You don't have to collect quantitative data. It's all qualitative. And I think it's great for you just to expand your understanding. And it's probably the one time in your career where you can just spend a lot of time delving into something, and there's no right or wrong answer. And quite often we find students start with one idea, but by the time they come to the conclusion, their ideas have changed. And that's great. I mean, that's education, isn't it? When the closer you look at something, the more informed you become. So that's 8 to 10,000 words. And you get personal supervisor sessions. So you work up your proposal and then you get feedback on what you've done and support and direction. So that's the capstone. And then if we move on, Nicola, to the next.
Thanks, Jane.
So then here's just some top tips for passing SQE first time. Goodness me, it's a challenging exam. And but we've put a lot of students through it now, and we're getting a feel for how likely students are to pass on our course. And as head of curriculum, for me, the key thing is our curriculum closely aligned to the exams that students encounter in SQE and the topics? And the answer is yes, because the level at which students perform on our module usually matches their performance in SQE1. Now, the only caveat to that is we rely on student self-reporting to us. All providers do, because the SRA don't give us the information. But the key thing for success is engaging with the course. Now, I know that's so obvious, you've probably just read over it already, but we can see it because we're online and we've got Canvas and analytics, we can see how well students engage and in turn how well they do at the end of the course, not just in our final exam, but also when they go on to do SQE1. And engaging from the beginning and staying engaged is key. Then It therefore follows, if you're fully engaged, you're not going to fall behind. If you do fall behind, it can be quite hard to catch up, because there's building blocks through all the practice areas, and you need to keep up. We don't like students saving up tests and MCQs until they're word perfect, because what we have noticed is that students' repetition is key to success. It's not a question of getting it right first time. It's about persevering with all the tests we give you until you hit the right threshold. And the threshold is around about 65%. So from about week 6 or 7 on SQE1, we're encouraging students to hit 65%. And then they're really very, very good chance of passing SQE1, provided they keep up the effort. So those progress tests for us are key to give you advice about sitting SQE1. And of course, if you don't keep up to date and engage, then we can't look at the results because there aren't any. So be prepared for seminars to get the best out of them. They are, as I mentioned earlier, the seminars focus on difficult areas and tricky points of law. So if you haven't covered them, you won't know they're tricky. So do all the reading before you attend the seminars. Planning ahead. I always say to students that study time will never, ever find you. Sharpening your pencils doesn't count. Fiddling about with books or whatever doesn't count. You have to have really focused head in your books, in your laptop, absorbing information. So it's quality, not quantity. So have a think about when you study best. Is it morning? Is it afternoon? Is it the evening? Some students, I will advise them just stay on at work for an extra hour every evening, book the meeting room or whatever, and just carry on, treat it like work. Just get your studies into a regular pattern, and then it doesn't become a big thing. Negotiate with those around you. A lot of our students have other responsibilities, whether it's to employers or to family or whatever. So you do need to negotiate quality time away to focus on your studies. In my experience, if you have a conversation with your employers, they rarely refuse it, and particularly as you get closer to the exam period. So don't wait until you're in trouble. Start at the beginning of the module and work out when you're going to study. Then lastly, we're all here. We're very, very accessible. You have a personal supervisor, a module leader, and we've got student support with excellent support for our students. So you can reach out at any stage and we will help you with it. Good. Nicola, let me finish. I could keep talking, but I think for long.
That's great, Jane. Yeah, I'll go through and just run through a bit more information, and we'll just
That's great.
on any further questions that have come through shortly as well. Then, so I'll just go on to the next slide. So something else that you can actually access from us as well is we do have some demos available to access. You can go through here, or you can go through the individual course pages on our website, and what they are is really able to then have a look at our learning materials for the different modules, and that's for the SQE1 and 2 preparation programs and for the transactional modules as well. You can even see some examples of the MCQs on the SQE1 prep demo as well. So I'd highly recommend you accessing those and having a look at them, just to get an even closer sort of flavour for what you might expect. Just something else to share with you as well. As I mentioned earlier, we are very, very proud to be highly rated by our students. Here's a few sort of reviews that we've recently had come through on Trustpilot that you can see there. We regularly receive feedback on how supported they do feel by the college team, right from sort of the initial inquiry stage through to the application process, arranging any reasonable adjustments that might be required as well, and then obviously crucially throughout studying with us as well. Our programmes, they do say, are very, very comprehensive and really well structured, and the seminar sessions with the expert practitioners are really highly valued as well. So we are really pleased to be receiving such great reviews. So I will just have a look as well for any further questions that have come through. There's a question about the pass rate. So um, as Jane mentioned, it is really tricky for providers really to be able to share pass rates. And the reason being is that the SRA actually don't publish that data themselves for us. So we're having to sort of try and get students to report back to us. And as we've mentioned, because the SQE exams don't sit as part of our prep courses or as part of the LLM, we're then asking students to keep coming back to us with that. So it's hard to get a full appropriate number of responses to give that data out, particularly because we've got so many different study options which I'll come on to shortly actually to show you. But what we have found, as Jane has mentioned, is that from those who have fully engaged with the programme, who have been taking those progress tests at those appropriate times, we've been able to track that actually they do are then highly likely to go on and pass first time. I'm just going to move on and just round up a few more slides, and then I'll have a look over what else has come through on the questions as well. So some upcoming start dates. So for those who are looking to start something soon, I appreciate there might be others on the call who are planning for further ahead in the future, but these are the ones that we do have coming up next. So we do have a full-time LLM that is starting just at the end of this month on the 30th of March. Applications are due to close on that on the 16th of March, and that one will be leading to the July SQE1 exam and for the April 2027 exam. Or if you're looking for a full-time programme for later in the year, then we also have a September start date for that as well. Our next part-time LLM will start on the 3rd of August, and that will be leading to the January 2027 exam and the January 2028 SQE2 exam as well. So I've mentioned this already, but obviously, as I've said, that our fees are £7,245, and you can cover that with a postgraduate loan should you be wanting to do so. And this is currently the lowest cost online LLM with SQE on the market. And I've just popped this in just in case there are people who are looking at our other courses as well. It looked like some who had registered were actually from a non-law background or were asking about our law conversion course. So we do offer a graduate diploma in law, which costs £3,950. That can be studied on a 20-week full-time or a 40-week part-time option. And it's September will be August and September actually is the next sort of part-time and full-time one starting, and then after that it would be the start of next year for those. If you've listened today and thought, actually, I don't know if I do really want the full LLM, and maybe I'm just happy to look at the individual SQE1 prep, we do offer that as a route as well. It's often something that people come to myself and my colleagues in the student recruitment team with questions about, well, which one should I take, which is the most appropriate, and there's pros and cons for both, which is a kind of another whole session in itself, but I'm very happy to answer any questions that people have on that. But if you are looking at those individual ones, the SQE1 prep course we offer over 13 weeks, 20 weeks, or even a longer 40-week programme, and then similar again with 3 different speeds on the SQE2 as well. So let me just try and have a look. I think Jane has been trying to work through some of the questions in the chat there as well. Is there any questions, Jane, that you'd like to pick up from that?
No, I think they're all very sensible questions, and I'm hoping I've answered them. If not, let me know. And I think, Rebecca, your question was answered by the slide that just followed. It was perfect timing, your question, because then Nicola took you through that slide. I think we've covered everything.
I think I'm not sure if your message has gone to everyone, Jane. I think it might have just there's different settings in the chat, which is a bit confusing.
Oh,
it might have just come to me.
Oh, that's annoying, is it?
But in terms of degree awarding powers, then is the OFS, Jane, isn't it?
So yes, so our degree awarding powers are the OFS, so we're the same as any UK university. So it's accepted in the same way that any other LLM in the UK is.
Thank you.
I think that answers that one.
Oh yes, I see a question about the start date. So hopefully you have seen those now.
I think the question about our pass rates comes full circle round to what I was talking about doing the progress tests and keeping up to date. Because we can see a pattern very early on of students who are completing the tests and building up to 65% pass mark on our tests and in turn on our summative assessment. And that means they're highly, highly likely to pass SQE1. So while we rely on students self-reporting to us, the ones that do report, we can then track back, and we've been able to work that data out and can say it with confidence.
Thanks, Jane.
Any other questions? Two new ones, are there?
There's a question about, would you find that the working on the capstone project impacts on the SQE prep? So as I mentioned, sort of our modules are individual, apart from there is just that underlying capstone project that you would start a little bit earlier, Jane, in terms of your draft proposals and things, wouldn't you?
Yes. So I think the message there is to start it early and just keep up, just little and often with the capstone. And yes, you do have to run it alongside SQE prep for sitting the national exams, but most of our students cope. You just have to be organised. And then you've time at the end to finish it off.
Thank you. Rebecca, I'll happily come back to you specifically about your individual circumstances. Yeah. That's fine, just to try and offer you some advice on that. And a question about who awards our LLM. So as I mentioned at the start, we do partner with a number of other institutions, actually, other universities, where we actually provide the SQE preparation elements as part of their LLMs. So if you study, for example, with Middlesex University on their LLM, then it will be the LLM will be awarded by them, but you will have actually studied our SQE preparation modules as part of that. And that's similar with a number of our partnering universities. But what we've covered today is very much focused just specifically on our own LLM in legal practice. So what time do the seminars take place? So all of our live sessions will take place between the hours of 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. As Jane mentioned, they are always recorded. So if you can't attend at that time, you would be able to access them back later. But Jane, they'd have the schedule from the start, wouldn't they, to hopefully try and pop it around as much as possible.
Yes, yeah. So that's one of the joys of being online. We have everything is on Canvas ready for you from the week before the module starts. So there aren't any surprises. You can see the timetable and the timing of seminars and every other session that you might want to attend.
Brilliant, thank you. So if you do have any other questions, please do feel free to pop them into the chat there. I've just put on the screen our contact details there as well. There's also a link there for booking on for a one-to-one chat if you wanted to do so, or you can always call us or email us as well. If you haven't subscribed to our newsletter, I would highly recommend that you do so. Even if you're just trying to do a bit of research now and it might not be to next year, you're thinking of doing that, you'll then be able to receive information about our upcoming courses, but also we regularly produce articles around different areas of legal practice and different articles to do with our students that have studied with us and where they've gone on and how they found things, as well as making you aware of different events like this as well. So yeah, as I mentioned earlier about if you are from a non-law background, we would highly recommend our GDL first as that stepping stone to cover those foundation areas of law that you would have done if you had studied a UK LLB. As I mentioned, the very first module is the SQE1 preparation module. So there's no sort of gently, moving in and picking up the basics first of all. You go straight into it. So it is assuming that you are coming with that foundation area of law, foundation level knowledge of law, I should say, first of all. Our GDL is 20 weeks full-time or 40 weeks part-time at a cost of £3,950. So it's very short and very focused on that's foundational, as I mentioned, so that you can use it then as a stepping stone to go on to the SQE preparation or LLM if you're wanting to do so. Brilliant. So I think that's all the questions that we have. Thank you so much for everyone for joining us and for submitting your questions to us. As I mentioned, I will be sorting out a copy of the recording and slides to send it over to you. I should get that out to you tomorrow. And if there's anything else then that you do want to know, feel free just to reply back to that or to get in contact with us through those methods there as well. And then hopefully be able to assist you further. And we would hope that one day you will then be studying with us. But for now, thank you for joining us, and thank you, Jane, for joining as well.
Pleasure.
The session with me, and we hope to see you all soon. Thanks very much.